again, not to condone, but let's say that our quality of life or our perception of what is all is good for the United States, personally, our personal perception, I'm not talking about on a national level, I'm talking about individually, was being, in our perceived, be attacked. It was ensuring that our children were going to have a worse quality of life than they have now. It was ensuring that you and I, and maybe the freedoms or the benefits that we enjoy today were going to be challenged or taken away by some cultural change or some group infiltrating our country. Would you not try to resist that?
Giving your ideology, giving your presentation.
Yeah.
Now you're saying that Iran. Now this would be our cultural ideology is democracy.
Yeah.
So we decided that we're going to force democracy on Iran.
Force, okay.
You know, now a small group of people are all right with this.
Yeah.
But the overall, you know, society is not cool with it.
Right.
But we're still going to implement it.
Well, that's a great question. Back to the original point that was made regarding wealth and better quality of life and individuals seeking to obtain that quality of life. I would argue that westernization goes on not by force, but really it goes on by it being a better idea. It's like what we would consider the theory or the law of natural law, that individuals move towards what is better. And even though this idea of forcing democracy on individuals who don't want it is out there, one I think could argue, and why there's so much pushback, is that if democracy weren't a better way of doing it, it would have been dead a long time ago. If gender equity were not progress in terms of better quality of life, Western culture, the United States, we would have never progressed to that or towards that. So it's an idea that, let me go back to this way. We talked about civilization and government very early on in the class, and that if government weren't necessary, we wouldn't have it. I mean, government didn't spring on us yesterday. Through civilization, through this need for determining who gets what in a fair and equitable way, or whatever the case may be, through that need, governments have been developed, and that over time has changed from monarchies and divine right to democracies and getting the power from the individual. But that's been a change. And as individuals look at that change, that experiment, if you want to talk about in the United States, and see that our quality of life here in the United States, our political institutions here in the United States, are maybe better than most, if not all, those emerging countries who are still making these decisions are going to naturally gravitate towards, and the media. This is one of the reasons where countries who have different systems that are more command systems will try to close off the outside media because they don't want their members getting any ideas. They don't want them to see that, hey, if we did things better, because that'll challenge the current, maybe the current ruling status or structure. And that oftentimes is what has happened, particularly when we talk about Iran or Iraq, from the governing class. I mean, Iraq was more progressive. I mean, you had a dictator at the top, there's no doubt about it, but it was more progressive than Iran has been, though Iran is a fairly progressive state as well, from the bottom up. Where's the unrest in Iran? Where is it coming from? Where's the call for change coming from? It's not coming from the older individuals. It's not coming from the establishment. It's coming from the younger individuals, which is where usually it does come from, individuals who seek to challenge the status quo. Well, those individuals at the top, looking at the unrest coming from the kids, got to recognize that the established culture, the established ideology, the established political institutions are in jeopardy. And they see that, where are these kids getting these ideas? Where are these kids coming up with these ideas? Well, it's the West. Where are they coming up with? It's the West, and that's your perceived forced assimilation coming from the West, and that's your pushback. Stay out. Don't let us close it up. Don't try to, and it comes from the top. Individuals who are already very comfortable, we would call them conservatives, not by way we call conservative in the United States or conservative in the United States, with the small c, that concept, but the big concept of keeping the system the way it is because it works for me. Who does this Islamic culture, ideology work for? Well, certainly for the males, right? In India, you have your caste system. Certainly for those individuals, is there religious tolerance? Generally speaking, no. There's not much religious tolerance in these countries. So, back to your question about Iran enforcing democracy on them. Yeah, I would be very careful about arguing that the objective is to make Iran the United States or little United States. But I wouldn't necessarily be shy about saying, giving opportunities to the citizens to choose democracy if they so wish to, without being squashed by the current leadership.
But they left the army there to enforce it. I mean, to police this.
Yeah.
Okay. The only flaw in it is that the economy won't flourish with the democracy. You get, it's like when they freed the slaves. They freed them, but to do what? They don't have jobs. They don't have places to stay. They don't have money. They don't have education.
Yeah.
So you done set these people free to do what? Same thing over there. We implement democracy, but there's no industrial system over there to flourish, to help it flourish.
Well, I don't think it was democracy is the issue even today.
All right.
It's protection of the resources.
Okay.
Our investment in the oil wells over there, if we lose those, where are we going to do that?
Okay. So we have to keep that area open, and they're just as reliant on selling that oil. Certain, whether you're talking about the Saudis and the royal family, or if you're talking about whatever other organization, state organization they're just as reliant on selling that oil. But I'll tell you right now, in many of those areas, you got oil, you got nothing. You got nothing. Right? You got a lot of sand, and if you're going to sell, beachfront property, well, you got a lot of beach. But you don't have anything else in terms of agriculture, in terms of in some of those countries. You've got the oil. Point is that if you open up to democracy too quickly, and I'm not sure that democracy is the issue, but maybe capitalism is. If you open up to capitalism too quickly or force capitalism too quickly, what is the result going to be if there aren't jobs for all these individuals? If there's not a command in China, for example, moving very slowly, but certainly moving towards it's certainly much more capitalistic today than it was in the past, in terms of individuals being able, a growing middle class, individuals with their own, personal wealth, and when you say a growing middle class, that means that, some individuals are being left behind, and that fails the concept of communism, where everybody's got to be at the same. So, but regardless of that, from China, you get almost like letting out rope. More freedom via letting out the rope, and China does it very slowly, or at least it seems to, versus other countries who just had been forced to open up. Russia, the former Soviet Union, is an example of a country went a command economy and control from the communists to a much more capitalistic society almost overnight, and there was huge growth in Russia from that. But since then, there's been a huge pullback as well. So, to your point's a good point regarding be careful about what we fight for, in that we may just simply be opening up.
Expanding unemployment.